computer. All right, you guys. Oh, another person in the waiting room. Okay, here's the deal. Will you guys promise me, at least for the time that you're on the call, to be like focused, not scrolling Facebook, not texting, because the next couple hours, or the next hour anyway, could be like monumental in your career. That's how good this ninja coaching is. And again, I don't want to over-own it, because this is what I'm going to do. And I've seen a lot of training and a lot of systems, and this thing is the real deal. So if you choose to adopt it, I'm thrilled for you. If you don't, it's probably good for me, because there'll be less competition doing it this way. But I'd like to see everybody really, really do well. So that's why I want to share it with you. There's nothing in it for me if you do it or if you don't do it. If you do Buffini or you don't, if you do nothing or don't, that's the same for me. So, but whenever I see something and I'm like, whoa, this thing is awful. So fair enough. Can we focus just for a little while? Thank you, Denali. Ryan.
That's my wife.
Ryan.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
This is my first Zoom meeting ever. So.
Your first Zoom ever?
Yep.
Can't believe it, man. Well, welcome to 2020.
Thank you.
It's a wild world on Zoom. It's pretty cool. All right, you guys, here's how I want to start. You've seen books and training, and a lot of you have taken Buffini. What problems that still remain after going through those trainings or reading those books? Like, what do you have trouble with? Buyers, sellers, marketing, referrals, income, lifestyle. Where do you still have problems in real estate? This is the participation part.
Well, I feel like asking for referrals, can be repetitive at times. You don't want to be that person just when you see someone always asking for referrals, I guess.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. You don't want to turn people off, I guess.
I love it. Well, here's a shocker. Everybody listening, I got your attention. In the ninja system, you don't ask for referrals, ever. So that's a departure from what we've always been taught. And a month ago, I would have said, well, that's kind of crazy. I don't know about that. But I've never been comfortable with it. Like Ryan said, it just, I don't want to be that guy. And I don't want people to see my name on their caller ID and say, oh, geez, he's calling looking for business again.
Exactly.
I'm just say he's calling because he's my friend and I'm anxious to talk to him. And that's what I'm hoping for. So that's a good one. What else do you see issues with, you guys? Some of the newbies chime in as well.
We talked about this last week. It's the lack of the execution once you do get that customer.
So, say more about it, Matt. What do you mean?
So just like, what does it take once you get a customer? Like the sales aspect, like, that article you sent out last week with like those 10 steps, Buffini might have touched on one or two of them, but specifics, like that whole funnel process, just tangible specifics that you can actually do with a client once you get with them. It's
I'm 100%. This is what I was hoping you guys would say. I've read tons of books on real estate, but very few of them address specifically. They're all marketing books. They're all like, how do I get people to do business with me? Because we know that is the most difficult part, is getting people to say, yes, Greg, help me buy a house. Yes, Greg, help me sell my house. That's where the money is. But okay, if they do say that, now what do? I got this buyer. I've never worked with buyers before. Sometimes I hit it off great. Sometimes I forget everything and do all the wrong thing. I need a process, right? I need a process to always have the same process. When you go to McDonald's and you order a hamburger, they sell a ton of hamburgers, and it's because they have a process. You always have the same reliable result. It might not be the best hamburger in the world, but you know what you're getting. whether you go in Tucson or Fort Wayne or St. Peter's, you know, you always get the same product. And that's what's in all these trainings, including Buffini. I'm sorry to say, I'm a huge Buffini fan, but the how to actually do the business is lacking. Oh, somebody's got some feedback going there. I'm not sure who. So that's what attracted me to this book right here. And I took off the cover. It's not nearly as sexy, but Ninja Selling. There's a 10-step buyer process. It's all written out. The forms in the book. There's a 16-step seller process written out in the book. You know, there's a pre-listing questionnaire in the book that you can just go through, and you know the process every time. So it does a couple things. One, it increases our own confidence dramatically when we're not winging it. We know exactly what we're going to do and what order we're going to do it. But maybe more importantly, from the seller or the buyer standpoint, they know we have a process. Pros have a process, you know. Pros have a process. So if they want to recommend their coworker to you and they hit it off pretty well with you, they don't know if that was just a fluke. You know, you guys just had matching personalities and therefore it went off great. Or does Julie have a process? And this is the reliable process that she takes everybody through. And therefore, as your client, I'm super confident that if I send my coworker, you're going to treat them exactly the same way. You weren't just you just weren't on your A game that day. So that's pretty exciting. Because has anybody else had that experience? Like you go on one listing appointment, man, it is fire. You just feel confident and everything goes right. Then you go on a listing appointment a month later and it's like you've never been in the business before. You can't say the right things. There's no rapport. It just doesn't work. Anybody else have that experience? That just me.
Same here.
Same.
Sometimes you have a connection with somebody and then sometimes it just feels awkward.
Yeah. Now, Lori Stinson and Heidi, they're always on their A game. See, but all the rest of us, we're not that lucky, you know. We gotta work at it a little bit. Maybe Treva's always on her A game. I don't know.
I was going to say, I think sometimes it's just, as he was saying, it's how your personalities click initially. And then you have to either, you know, make them feel more comfortable, or at least you have to.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable in it. Man, they can get you off track when you have a process, when you have a 16-step system and if they throw you a curveball, it's a lot easier to stay on focus and on purpose when we have something written down. And when you have a written form, you know, when you go to the dentist, the doctor, nobody just starts asking questions. They have an order. It's obvious that they've done this before, and that's what we're working for as well. What other issues do you have in this business? Let's narrow it down. What about
I think staying in touch with clients in the past.
Staying in touch, okay. Do you guys know what percentage of realtors? This is not me saying it. This is the National Association of Realtors survey. What percentage realtors stay in contact at least once a year with their with their past clients?
20%.
That's what I was going to say.
Nope.
10%.
Not 20?
Nope.
Less than 10?
6%.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Wow.
I should say 6%. Maybe I'm getting the numbers wrong. It may be 6% stay on a regular basis. Like Heidi every month sends the Buffini letter out, you know, so every month. That might be the 6%. 20% might be once a year. I don't know. I forget, but it's a ridiculous, crazy small number. You would think, you know, but we're all about the transaction. You know, this one closed. How do I get my next deal? But what we don't understand and what Ninja teaches us is every buyer and every seller we have, they know 4 people that are going to move this year. So every time, every client we have, our next deal or 2 or 3 or 4 is embedded in that deal. If we can just stay in contact, but you know, somewhere north of 80% of realtors never talk to their people again. Not once. 80%. They never heard from them again. Not a postcard, not a follow-up, not a happy house anniversary, nothing. So yeah, I mean, when you say staying in touch is hard, Ryan, you are definitely not the only one. There's 80+% who have the same issue.
Back to your question there, Chris, if I can take a second. So we as a team, we have a form that we had gotten a couple of years ago, but and I think Treva, I think we'd be okay sharing it because somebody shared it with us. But it's a 2-page document that's just a list of questions that it's a routine when you meet with a new seller, a possible seller. You know, everything from, you know, what they put into the home, you know, what attracted them to that neighborhood when they bought it, or what attracted them to that house.
Yeah.
It's got some basic information at the bottom of page 2 where you can put some basic information about the home. But I think it's helpful, and I think Treva uses it. I would imagine Allie probably uses it. But I'm happy to share that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I use it every time.
Yeah. So that's the process we're talking about. When you have a process, you have confidence. And not only do you have confidence, but more importantly, the client has confidence that you have a process. You're a professional because you have a set of steps you go through every time. That's the thing. I took Buffini. I taught Buffini umpteen times. Still don't have a process on a listing appointment. That's surprising to me. I mean, that's a big error. Again, I'm not bashing Buffini. I love Buffini, but that is a big missing link because the Buffini will get you the listing appointments. But now what do you do when you go on the listing appointment? If you don't have a sheet like Dave and Treva and Kelly and them, you're winging it. You know, I winged it a lot. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, we always I take comps as well. Even when I go to listing appointment now, I won't give them a number at that appointment. I still go back and do do my research, but I take comps. I take that. I have a listing guide. It's the one Northeastern Group kind of put together with my information in it.
Yeah.
And I've shown up where I've beat out other agents because I'm the only one that shows up with something in hand.
Because you look like a pro. You got a process.
Value. Yeah. So I think
you don't even have to use it. You just have to show up with it. You just have to show that you have it, you know? So yeah, I appreciate it. If you would share it, that would be great.
I'll email it, and then I don't know how to email the whole office. I'm not that tech savvy, so I'll email it to somebody.
I'll be happy to send it, or you can send it to Kim or me, either one. That'd be great.
Thank you. Treva, you're okay with that, I'm assuming. I don't think there's any issue. You know, we're all in this together, so.
And that's the right there is part of the ninja selling system is the abundance mindset that there's plenty of business. I looked at the numbers for Northeastern Group. Kim, you've probably seen this. I mean, the top person in all of Fort Wayne doesn't have 2% of the market. I mean, to make $250,000, you don't have to get one deal out of every 100 that happens. So there's a lot of business to be had. I don't know what percentage, I should know that number, but Northeastern Group, what percentage we have of the entire, you know, all the transactions that happen, but I'm sure it's a small percentage. And we're number 2, I think, in the entire MLS, but our percentage is still small. So there's tons of business. So you don't have to worry about giving away your secret and suddenly there's not going to be enough for you. There's more than you can handle. Any of us.
Hey, Chris, I was going to mention in regards to the listing information, you know, a lot of times I'm not sure what's all on the form that Dave and Treva were talking about, but we took a form and I was showing it to Brad, and he actually had our computer guy put it online so that we can just send the link to our clients and they can fill it out on the computer.
Nice.
And so then that way, if they send it to us beforehand, before the listing appointment, then we just have a little bit more information and we don't have to spend the whole time. Obviously we'll take some notes, but we don't have to, you know, spend the entire time writing when we're at the listing appointment, which is kind of
you already know some of the stuff up front. Yeah, like probably a Google form and you just response. Yeah, that's cool.
Chris,
that's been helpful.
Yeah.
It's Kelly.
Hey, Mom and I developed, or Treva and I developed that form quite a few years ago. And I will tell everybody, there's some really weird questions in there. So it's because some of the stuff at the bottom of the first page happened to us. So one of them is like, are you the, what does it say, Treva? Something about like, are you the only decision maker in this? And that was because my seller was an FHA buyer and her stepdad had signed for her. So I had to pull him in on it. And is there a divorce proceeding happening? Do you have any divorces in your past where you owe baby mama some money? Because that happened.
I don't put it like that.
No,
You have that on your form? Is there a baby daddy?
There's nothing wrong with the baby mama. I'm not saying that. But when ex-wife is owed $5,000 and then I have to go do a song and dance to get her down to $500 and then he'll pay her later. I mean, it was a mess. So some of those things are really weird, but it's happened to us. So
oh yeah, be prepared.
Yeah.
That's why our purchase agreement is 29 pages long now, because all that stuff happened to people. So we have to keep adding forms to protect ourselves. What about lifestyle, you guys? Tell me about lifestyle, work-life balance. Where do you find a problem there?
I work too much.
Who said that?
Dave.
Dave, work too much? How much would be a good amount to work? There's a good question.
I've gotten better. I know my first year of business, I was working, it wouldn't be nothing for me to put in 14, 16 hours a day, but, obviously I don't think you can limit yourself to 40 hours a week in this business.
Depends what, I wouldn't agree, but,
Okay.
I mean, it depends on what you want to make. If you want to make $1 million in Fort Wayne or Auburn, you probably can't do that in 40 hours a week, but different people have different goals. So you could say, I'm going to work real estate 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then your goal becomes how much money can I make in 20 hours a week?
Yeah, that's not my goal. The only goal I have is make sure I take care of people.
Yeah.
I have my personal goals, but
yeah. So in Ninja, the thing that caught my eye first was they said the stated goal of having this whole program, this Ninja selling system, is to increase your dollars per hour so that you can have a life. Because after almost 30 years in this, I've noticed that, I hate to say it, but a massive high percentage of top producers end up in, a wreck in their personal life, me included. I got divorced over it. I got depressed. I was so overwhelmed, Dave, that I wasn't smart enough to get an assistant or any of that back in the day. In 1999, I did 55 transactions by myself. No zip forms, no nothing. And I was so burned out that I quit and I went and got a temp job. That's how crazy I was. I was like, I am 100% done. I went from working 100 hours a week to 0 hours a week in real estate and making a lot of money for a young kid to making, $8 an hour at a data entry job just because I couldn't take it anymore. And I didn't have any system or any way to handle it. So to me, that's one of the really beautiful things about this way of working, Buffini to some extent, but they focus even more on is having a life and not doing stuff that is $10 an hour activities when you could be making $1,000 activities on a listing appointment instead. So yeah, the lifestyle is a big component of it. So I think we've touched on most everything. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to show you like an interview of Larry Kendall. He developed this Ninja selling system. He's being interviewed by another coach, and I think it is a real good overview of the whole system and why it works. But any questions before we get started on that? Nothing. Everybody quiet. All right. This is where it will be tempting to do your texting and check Instagram and maybe make a TikTok video. I don't know. We got some young. Don't do that. Focus so you'll be able to decide, is this a path you want to follow or not? So a couple questions I thought you might have is there Do they sell coaching? Yes, they do. I don't plan on getting a ninja coach. This is my ninja coach right here. What I would get a coach for would be accountability. I don't know what it costs because I haven't looked into it. I suspect it's very significant if it's anything like the other major coaching programs. They do have a 4-day training, live events that are mostly put on hold because of COVID right now. Those are about $900 per person for the 4 days. I would love to go to one, and I've been off and on trying for a decade because I was curious about this to go to one, and they're sold out every time, every place. So Kim and I may, if there's a lot of interest, we may look into putting on one in Fort Wayne. The problem is, it's a $40,000, $50,000 commitment that will bring 50 people willing to pay $800 or $900 a piece. I will tell you this, hopefully Kim doesn't mind, but I'm on the Ninja, I don't know, it's a fan page on our group on Facebook. And I asked a question. I said, I'm doing this RealTalk, what's the best way to introduce people to the Ninja way of selling? And Patrick Malablaki from Coldwell Banker said, hey, Sanderson, call me up. I'd love to talk to you about this. So he's is he the principal broker? I don't know. He's a big shot at Coldwell Banker. So I called him up and he says, best thing we've ever done by far. And they invested, I think, $80,000, to bring it to, where were they? South Bend. So what they did, was they reimbursed over a number, their agents had to pay up front, and then they reimbursed over several closings to say, we'll invest in you if you'll invest in us. But, when Coldwell Banker says this is the best money we've ever spent in our business, I perk up and take notice there. So I don't know if that'll ever happen. There'd have to be a lot of interest, but he said, if you guys have it, we'll probably be able to send a dozen people from Coldwell Banker to your event if you'll have them. So I don't know. We'll look into that. What I signed up for is Ninja U. It's an online training program. It's $20 a month. So I'll show you that in a little bit. I also got their 2020 business planning online thing. It was $100 and it's freaking awesome. I'm going to show it to you here in a little bit, but it's really good for putting together a Ninja style business plan for 2021. All right, without further ado, unless anybody has any questions, I'm going to start this video, God willing. Always take a deep breath that the technology will work properly. All right, can you guys see my screen? Can't tell by looking at you. Matt, can you see it? Yes?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to play this thing. Larry, welcome. Thanks so much for making time for this and inviting us into your office. They are. You're good. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be with you. So excited to be. I want to make sure that the viewers understand that we have connected before and our relationship. Can you hear it okay?
No,
No.
Too quiet?
too quiet.
Let me see here. I think there's something, share computer sound. There we go. All right, everybody, watch your ears. Let's try this.
Well, Larry, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us and inviting us into your office here today. How are you?
I'm doing good, Bill. Thanks for the opportunity to be with you.
So exciting for me. I want to make sure that the viewers understand that we have connected before and our relationship is kind of evolving as the viewer is watching this, right? But I am a fan. I'm a big fan, and that will become abundantly clear very quickly. To properly introduce you, you are the co-founder and chairman of the group in Colorado, a real estate company that's about 40 years old.
We celebrated 40 years last year. Absolutely.
I mean, really phenomenal. And so here's what I need people to understand. You are also now the author of Ninja Selling, and this is a book that I just cannot strongly enough recommend. So I'm just going to say that right out of the blocks. Like at this moment, if you don't own this book, you need to go to Amazon or ninjaselling.com and order at least 5 copies. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to own at least 5 copies, because what will happen is you're going to do what I did. You're going to order one. One was gifted to me, and then I ended up ordering more, and I send them off to friends. And if you're in the business, get a case, right? That's what I would do.
Bill, thank you.
This is not. I'm not commissioned. I'm not doing it because you're going to benefit. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing it because they'll benefit. I've been in this business since '83, and this didn't exist. I guess that's what I'm saying. This didn't exist. What existed was you have to endure the no's to get to the yes. Right, you gotta pound through just plates and plates of rejection pie before you finally win, and you're wrestling. And if they say this, you say that, and here's the closing technique. And holy cow! I mean, it can be so much easier. So with all that said, if we're gonna sort of paint the broad picture of ninja selling, what I would love to do, I guess, really is just start with the imagery. Can you talk to us a little bit about the idea of the butterfly and the stacked river rocks?
Sure, you bet. The cover is symbolic. The river rocks, the balanced stones represent what we call a cairn, which is balanced rocks. If you climb in the high mountains, I live in Colorado. If you climb up above timberline, you're on the rock. It becomes difficult to find the trail, and so we pile rocks to show the path or the way. And the idea of this book is to show you the path or the way, to improve your business, to improve your life, and that's the symbolism of the rocks. The butterfly represents transformation from the caterpillar into the butterfly, which if you follow this path or this way, this system that we've outlined for you, it'll transform your business and hopefully transform your life as well.
Yeah, I believe that to be true. And you've watched it, of course. And I should point out that I think it's mentioned in the book, but your trainings are referred to as installations. So, when I first heard that, I think of somebody becoming a board president at an installation dinner, but that's not what you mean. So tell us what an installation means in your world.
The name installation, we say we don't teach ninja, we install it. How many of us have been to workshops where they're just fantastic? We walk out there with a notebook full of great ideas, but then when we next get with the customer, we're kind of revert or default to the old way that we've always done it. And so how do you really modify behavior? That's what we do. Our courses, our 4-day course is basically a form of behavior modification. You live for 4 days like a ninja. So we teach you the habits, the daily routines, the dialogues, the questions to ask, the system. And what we find is when you come out of that course, you're changed, and it's like we've installed software. We installed the Ninja chip, and we've gotten great results. We like to say we don't. Our product is not training. Our product is results. Salespeople have spent a lot of money over the years on training. What they really want is results, and so that's the idea of it. And then what we're hearing now from ninjas who've read the book is that they're able to install those same systems in their business and get the same results. In fact, we have a saying, Bill, TSW. I don't know if you remember that from the book, but TSW, the stuff works, or the system works. That's a mantra within ninjas. So.
I love that, and my hunger is for the viewer to sort of benefit from my conviction around this, and so I told you recently I was speaking to a group of realtors in Denver, and I think about a third of the room were ninjas. Now, the thing that you need to understand in my world is this was all new to me, and I'm thinking, so we got a cult going here? Like, what is it? And like, when did the black robes come out? When did they start throwing the stars and, swords? And so when I learned more about it, it was before I had the book. And I spoke to some of the ninjas afterwards. It was so cool to speak to people who had been through this training, who truly had that sense of peace of part of what you teach is that sort of pull versus push philosophy. Right?
Yeah, right. Ninja selling is very subtle, very soft, very non-combative. It's selling without appearing to be selling. Kind of the old school that you mentioned earlier, Bill, and I was brought up selling in that school, which is, 10 no's to have your first yes, ABC, always be closing. Ninja selling's approach is to never put your customer in the position of feeling pressure. Because when they feel pressure, the law goes up. Some of them will push back. You could end up being rejected. So it's very soft. It's really solutions oriented, and it's really designed to ask the right questions, identify what the customer, what they're trying to accomplish, what is their pain, what is their pleasure, and provide a solution. So we always say the first thing we have to do in Ninja is to teach you to stop selling. What we mean by that is stop selling in the traditional way, and instead start solving.
Well, I told you when I first was reading the book, I literally could feel my heart rate go up. like I was getting so excited about, oh my goodness, this is all the stuff that I believe, and I've had bits and pieces here and there, and this over here in a folder, and over here in a drawer, and I've got this on this computer, and you know what I mean? I think I've aggregated nearly everything that's in here at some point or something similar over the years. But when I saw what I would view really as, I think your publicist referred to it as the Bible, right? If you're out preaching the word in your installations, that's what you didn't have. You didn't have the Bible. Now you have the Bible, so somebody can go back to it. And
Right.
so that's where I get excited. And I'm gonna go a little old school here for a moment and just show people, the table of contents here, to whatever degree you can see that. Divided up into principle 1, personal mastery. Principle number 2, stop selling and start solving, what you just said. Principle number 3, the ninja business strategy. And then principle number 4, connect and communicate. I love the arrangement of that, and however you got there over 22 years of teaching this. Is that right?
Yeah, 23 now and 44 years in real estate. So,
I mean, I picture you around a huge table, fire burning, because you're in Colorado, of course. You've got coffee or hot chocolate, and you've got all these notebooks and file folders. And, at some point, and probably a bulletin board and 3x5 cards, at some point you had to figure out how to aggregate and organize this to create a logical flow, a word we'll come back to in a minute, a logical flow to the structure of the book, right?
well, Bill, when I first started, I didn't have any training. So I went off to a sales training course, and I was taught what I call now Depression era selling techniques, the old school. And I realized that wasn't going to work for me, and I had to come up with a different way. And I began to experiment. And it's funny, you talk about these notebooks. I literally had notebooks, how to work with sellers, how to work with buyers, how to negotiate, how to generate business. And then over time, I began to assemble those notebooks into a coherent system of selling. And it began to work for me, and I began to teach that in our company. And in 1991, our company received an award for being the most productive real estate company in America in terms of transactions per agent by RealTrends. And we've been one of the top 2 or 3 in the nation every year since, for a quarter of a century. And that's really what led to ninja selling, because people began to ask us, how do you get that level of productivity? And I said, well, we can show you. And so I started teaching the class, ninja selling, and then finally have been able to put the book together.
So that is so.
Yeah, I just want to stop it there for a second because, Kim has created and Joe, has created a very similar environment where Northeastern Group is the highest productivity per agent of any company easily in Allen County. So, I mean, any major company, there might be a 1 or 5-person company that's really just a team that started their own brokerage. But these guys, the average realtor sells about 6 houses a year. If you take all the houses sold by all the licensed realtors, about 6 a year is the average. I think in 1991, they were selling 43 per person, per agent on average in their company. That is insane. But yeah, they've been in the top 2 or 3 most productive companies in the United States for going on 20 years now. It's incredible if you think about it. So anyway, let's keep going.
Oh, good. And that's such a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. I told you when we first met, it was 83 when I got my first gold jacket. I had gone to work for the very first region for Century 21 here in Southern California, owned by Bud Cashin and John Gherkin back in the day. They had bought that region from Art Bartlett and Marsh Fisher, the founders of Century 21. RE/MAX had just maybe come online, or maybe a few years after. Keller Williams wasn't even an idea, right? And we were the big dog. Like Century 21 absolutely had the most market share at the time. And it was all sort of designed around this idea of if you recruit enough bodies and train them the basics, a certain percentage will sort of catch and a certain percentage will wash out, but that's the game, right? And so that's what we were doing. Well, I remember being at a conference at some point within our company, and somebody said, so there's this organization called The Group in Colorado, and they do this like massive production. It's amazing. And so I pictured, a mountaintop with guys with long white beards and white robes all sitting around that had completely mastered it. So I had heard of you years and years ago. I mean, years ago, truly. And then I thought, what could possibly be the same organization? This was so many years ago. Totally is. Now, I'm assuming that the structure of your organization is a little like a law firm at The Group. Is that a fair description?
Well, we're called The Group because all of us that work here own it. We started with 12 of us back in 1976, and now we have about 210 of us in 6 offices in northern Colorado. But we call ourselves partners, so we're all owners of this company.
Well, so as a coach, that's what I do. I coach and I speak, and those are the things that fill my calendar. And so when I run across something like this that came from that mountaintop experience, proven by real trends based on your purpose and productivity, to me that's golden, right? That's like I think I may have mentioned to you. I'm writing a book right now called White Collar Warrior: Lessons for Sales Professionals from America's Military Elite. And so I'm interviewing Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, and when I'm listening to them, when I get their take on fear or mission planning or training, man, I listen like I'm leaning in. I'm taking notes. I want to know what you're telling me, right? Larry, I feel that same way about this book. So with that said, let's jump in a little bit. So the very first thing, chapter 1, is the ninja mindset. And while I think you've touched on it, if you were just going to tie a bow on that a little bit for our viewers, how would you describe the mindset?
Well, we say there's 3 real key areas that you need to master in your business and your life. One is your mindset. The second is your skill set. And then third is the actions you take on a daily basis, your habits, your routines, if you will. And on the mindset, all 3 of those are important, but the mindset is the most important because it will override the other 2. We can teach you the skills. You can put those skills into action, but if you bring the wrong energy or the wrong attitude to it, it will override that. So an example of mindset, we say that, and actually psychologists tell us, at any given point in time, a human being has a mindset of either a player or a victim. And the victim mindset, nobody wants to work with a victim. Nobody wants to be around that negative energy. And we pick it up, that energy, from each other in what we call a vibe. You can feel the vibe when you're with a customer. They can feel your vibe. How important do you think that vibe is in sales or in trust?
Oh, yeah.
And they want to be with people who have a positive vibe. And so that all comes from what you're thinking, what you're feeling. It comes from your mindset. So getting your mindset straight is critical. And the first part of the book teaches how to do that, how to develop some daily routines on your mindset, one of which is to start each day with your gratitudes.
With what?
With your gratitudes. With giving thanks, it will put you immediately in a very positive mindset. It's one of the kind of the basic easy routines to do each day. Before you even get out of bed, just give thanks, go through your gratitudes. It'll help. By the time your feet hit the floor, you'll be in a positive energy state.
I love that more than you know. For viewers who are following me on Facebook and we're friends there, you would know that I just bought the 5-Minute Journal, which is all built around gratitude. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, I am.
Right? It's a matter of just quick answers to questions, a quick affirmation, what would make this day excellent, and then at the end of the day, a recap, right, of what do I celebrate, what was fantastic. I've been around this game for a long time. For me, this little simple 5-minute exercise, Larry, it's the first time I've ever done it. I just have to be honest with you. I've never done it in my life. And I sort of live in gratitude. Maybe that's the reason I've never done it, is I'm enormous.
Didn't have to. It was natural for you.
Well, I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. I've been through a heart attack. I have a stent. Every day's a gift, right? So I live in gratitude. But I love your observation about that and your kind of foundational weight that you give that in terms of how you begin and end your days.
Bill, if I could say one more thing about not just about gratitudes, but in our book, we always try to back up everything we do with the science behind it. And Dr. Robert Emmons, who's a professor at the University of California at Davis, has done an amazing amount of research on gratitudes and the power of that. So a lot of times when you say something like this, our folks on this call, they might think, well, that's just positive mental attitude stuff. We've heard that, Well, there's some science behind it. And there's a science behind gratitude. There's a science behind mindset. There's a science behind flow. And one of the things we try to do is document the science behind everything that we teach in the
yeah. I see that in the book, and I appreciate that more than you know. We have found that as a coaching organization. We do a lot of work now with Dr. Henry Cloud that you may know. And Dr. Cloud has brought to us the neuroscience behind the philosophy that we've taken to coaching. And, our coaching, you know this because I know you've been to the website and we've talked a bit about it, but, we view it as a holistic approach to coaching. So it's it's your life plan combined with your business plan, and those really are integrated. The days of, you and I are going to be the only ones that remember this, but the days of Father Knows Best, right, where he would come home and set down his briefcase and go hug Princess, and his wife had the apron on in the kitchen. You don't turn off business anymore. It's coming at us 24/7 in a variety of different channels. Not that you should allow it, but it will try to. So let me ask you a question, because this one was intriguing to me. You make a distinction between rituals and routine. So when we think of the morning, for example, as we just touched on with gratitude, can you talk to me a little bit about the distinction between a ritual and a routine in your mind?
You bet. And some of this comes, Bill, from sports science. Dr. James Lear, who's a famous sports psychologist, has written many books. Used to live in Colorado. I studied with him. I took every class I could with the gentleman. He's a genius. this is where I learned the difference between a ritual and a routine. A routine is what we do on a daily basis. It's our daily habits. It's what time we usually get up, how we get around in the morning, what do we do first each day. It's the routine through the day, what we eat, etc. Ritual is what we do right before it's time to perform. So right before we're meeting with a client, what do we do in what we call our pregame ritual? Or sometimes you'll see it in a golfer, in their pre-shot ritual. Or Dr. Lear coached a lot of tennis players. And it's, what do you get ready? What do you do in the few seconds or the few minutes before it's showtime to get your energy right, to get focused, and to really get ready? And so we teach both rituals and routines.
I had never heard that distinction before, and I so appreciate that. Thank you. Ford. Now, here's what's funny to me about Ford. I probably first heard this when you did, I don't know, maybe 25 years ago or so. And so I always feel like, I feel like as a coach, I sit down at my desk, and I'm at my desk. That's where I am right now. And I have all my books behind me. That's not just a poster. Those are actual books that I've read. I've read them, yeah. I feel like I have a quiver on my back, like an archer.
Hey, you guys, I want to just bring your attention back here. If you've heard of Ford before, Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams, don't tune out, because they got a different spin on it that I think is quite interesting. So listen up here.
And I pull these arrows out, right, at various times in coaching sessions. And when I pull out the Ford arrow, you know, people in their 30s are like, wow, that's really clever. Like, give me that again. It's been around for a while. It's just that you haven't really done anything with it. But I love the way that you lay it out in the book. And for viewers right now that maybe are not familiar with Ford, would you mind just giving us a quick flyby of, first of all, why is it important? And then how do you deploy it?
Sure. Well, F-O-R-D, Ford, the F stands for family and friends, the O stands for occupation, R stands for recreation, and D stands for dreams. And dreams would be defined as anything in the future. And these four areas are really easy to build a connection and rapport and start a conversation. I mean, people love to talk about their family. You ask them, how's business? What are you doing for fun? You know, what are your plans for the weekend? Those are just right there, 4 examples of Ford. Where the mastery comes in is in the listening skills, because while these 4 areas are very easy to build rapport, they're also, for most people, the 4 core areas of their life. Is there anything more important to anybody than their family, their career, what brings them joy, their hopes and their dreams? And so really, when you're asking these questions, if you listen carefully, you're drilling right down into their core, into the 4 core most important areas of their life. And what we know is if there's some sort of change going on in any of these 4 areas, it's probably going to affect the real estate. And so that's what we teach. It's funny, I had a gentleman call me from Texas, and he said, I've heard about Ninja. And I said, what have you heard? He says, I heard you're masters of chit chat. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean we're masters of chit chat? He says, well, I've heard about the Ford. I think that's great. I love that. And I said, well, yeah, that's the start, but it goes deeper. And if you're really a good listener and can pick up the subtle pain and pleasure within each of those 4 areas, that's where the opportunity lies.
Absolutely. So you, again, the beauty of every time I talk to you, you take something I'm aware of and give me another dimension. It's like I've had these cool colored squares, but now you're showing me that they're actually Rubik's Cubes, and there's other things that are happening there. And that's what's so exciting to me, Larry, about Ninja. Really and truly, I mean that with all my heart. Just that application of Ford. I've never seen it to the depth of the application that you described, that if that helps me to uncover something where there's an opportunity, now through the proper questions, I can find out if there is there an opportunity here, right? So,
right.
I can't, because of our time constraints, I can't really do justice.
Again, I just want to stop it there and just say that from a guy that's been studying selling a long time, this is sort of the heart of the Ninja system, is asking good questions. This is not at the listing appointment or the buyer appointment. This is at the soccer game or the grocery store or the networking event. You're asking good questions and then really listening. And that, I've been decent at asking questions. I'm not so sure I've been very good at listening. And the reason we got to really listen is because when there's any change in any of these 4 areas of Ford, that means these people are likely to be moving in the next 12 months. That's what the reticular activator in our brain that pays attention to all the different things going on around us. If we can retrain that to listen for change in those 4 areas, then we know oftentimes before the buyer or seller knows we know that they're going to be moving before they know. And they'll talk later about a hot list. Those are people who they know they're moving and they want to work with you in the next 90 days. And then they talk about a warm list, which is people who are going to probably move within the next year, but they don't know it yet. But we know it because we've been listening, we've been paying attention, we've been on Facebook, we've been seeing what they've been posting. And we know that they're likely to move before they do. And therefore, we can increase our attention and our what they call flow, our interactions with those people that are more likely to move, instead of just saying, well, people move on average every 7 years or every 8 years. I'm going to wait 7 years and then pay attention to them in hopes that they'll fit into the average. Because the average is just that. It's an average. That means a ton of people move after 3 years and a ton of people move after 20 years, but the average is 8 years. So most realtors just forget about people for those 7, 8 years. But if we listen, then we know when they're going to move. And not to mention that he said by paying attention to them, every year they know 4 people that are going to move. So in 8 years, on average, they're going to know 32 people who are going to move, plus they're going to move one time on average. So that's 34, 33, 33 opportunities that we have if we just stay in touch with them. So it's real similar to Buffini in that we narrow our database but pay more attention to those people. But this twist on it is a lot more powerful. We're not just saying these are our A-plus people who have referred us business. We actually have our radar on to know who's going to be moving. So that's that makes sense, you guys? Shake your head if that makes sense. Yes? Okay, good. It's weird teaching on Zoom, you can't tell. There's no energy to tell if people get it or don't. So, all right, back to the coach here.
Justice to the entire book, but as you know, one of the things that I just absolutely resonated with was this idea of flow. And it's because as a coach, I see it all the time. And even before I was coaching, I've only been coaching 14 years, but
sorry, someone's in the waiting room that doesn't have a name. It just says iPhone 4. So we may get bombed by some weirdo here. So if that happens, I'm not ending the meeting. I'm just going to remove them from the meeting. It's probably Joe Zayer, but we'll see. Here we go.
in the 20 years before that, when I was selling and managing people, in real estate, it was always this roller coaster ride of market. Whoa, I'm busy. I got to close these transactions. Oh, I got to market. And it was just ongoing. And so then we began to see some marketing solutions come along where they could sort of standardize some of your marketing. But even that sort of ebbs and flows, right? Whether it's Hobbs Herder marketing or if it's an email strategy or drip campaigns or whatever it might be. And all of which are great, by the way. I'm not judging any of that. But what I think you did for the first time for me was to help me to see that's really just an ongoing commitment that happens despite my efforts. It's happening in spite of me, and that keeps my business flowing. So I've done a poor job of it, but would you mind describing flow as the founder of this philosophy, as the mind behind it?
Absolutely, Bill. The whole purpose behind flow is built around the idea of how do customers make a decision on who to work with, whether it's the real estate agent or whether it's the loan officer. And what we know is that customers know, the public knows, well, with realtors, the science is that they know 12 realtors. So how do they choose a realtor? And what the science shows is it's not based upon who they last did that transaction with 7 or 8 years ago. It's who they were in, quote, flow with most recently. And flow is frequency of interaction. So face-to-face, on the phone, through the mail, through the social media, all forms of interaction, those are flow. And so if you want to build a business and you want to build relationships and you want to build especially a referral-based business, amp up your flow. And so there's really two types of flow. There's what we call live flow, which is face-to-face, voice-to-voice, which is the best. And then you want to augment that with what we call auto flow. And these are mailings, emailings, social media. And when we actually teach an entire flow system. And if you follow that, you will become the realtor of choice, the loan officer of choice. You'll become top of the mind in your customer's mind. And that's really the purpose of flow, is for you to position yourself as the realtor of choice, their trusted real estate advisor.
It is so logical. And, I think I told you before, the closest I had ever seen anyone come to describing that was when Gary Keller talked about 33 Touch in the Red book 10 years ago or whatever. And it was good. It was a good description of a combination of phone calls, face-to-face, Mother's Day cards, Father's Day cards, emails. And I described it this way. I don't know if this is entirely accurate, but I said, if you interview a number of top producers and you take their marketing plan and throw it in a blender with some juice, that's pretty much what you're going to get, right? It could be 24 touches. It could be 52. I don't know what the number is. But that was the first that I had heard of that. And so I have often used that as an example. But to me, flow is more, again, foundational than that. And I know we're only touching on it today, but it is laid out in the book. And obviously, if somebody is interested, they can go to the site, they can get the book, and they can certainly look into an installation near them. I just saw an email go by today. Who was it? Was it NAR? Does NAR have your events lined up in their annual calendar? Because I think I saw that today in an email.
Oh, really? Well, that's good.
Yeah. But I'm assuming as we get to the end of our time together, as much as I wish we had about 5 times as much time, if people want to know more, is ninjaselling.com the best place that you would send them, or what would you tell them to do?
Yeah, I think that's the best. They can go to ninjaselling.com. They can order the book there. They can also, we have a complete website full of materials and online learning and a lot of free stuff for them that will help them in their careers. So yeah, that would be the place.
Well, so I just want to sign off with a call to action, right? And my call to action is, if you're watching this right now, you must own this book. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I have a lot of books here, and I've enjoyed every one of them. There's a variety of different books there around sales and building your business. But if there was one that in any sales endeavor, by the way, not just real estate. I mean, we're talking to realtors right now, but I could see this absolutely apply to the mortgage industry, to somebody in pharmaceutical sales, the insurance. The applications are universal. So while you cut your teeth, as did I, in the real estate industry, the application is universal. So make sure that you get a copy. And Larry, I'm just so excited for you. I love that the book is out, because now that message is going to be so much further and wider than it has been. And I know that must be exciting to you, because truth shared is potential truth applied, and lives can be impacted, and we as an industry can better serve the public in the process.
Well, I appreciate that, Bill, and thank you for inviting me to be on the program. A comment just came up for me. All those books that you have in your library, I have the same. Many of them are sales books. I've read a lot of sales books over the years, and what I wanted to do is to help create a sales system that, number one, would never put you in a position of being rejected, never put your customer in the position of feeling pressure, but also would be very effective for any personality type. And so I think that's one of the unique things about Ninja Selling, and I just appreciate you taking the time to read the book and then to so heavily endorse it. So thanks a lot, Bill. Thank you.
Fire about it. I mean, there's no doubt I am on fire about it. So thanks so much for making the time, Larry. And I just encourage everybody who's viewing right now to jump into the book and email me, bill@buildingchampions.com. I'd love to hear from you as you get into the book and you begin to see some things happening. Let me know what you're running into, and it will help me to know that I've done the right thing here, and I know that I have, but I'd love to hear from you. Larry, thanks for making the time, and stay warm there in Colorado.
All right. Stop share. Can I unmute everyone? No, I can only mute all, I think. Well, crap. So yeah, go ahead and unmute yourselves if you don't mind participating. I want to hear your feedback. What did you learn there? What did you hear that said something to you? Go. Gonna have to call on people. Dave, I heard you giggle. Was there anything new?
Yeah. I can say something here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, one thing I almost brought up earlier as a very new agent is connecting with people that I know well. Just looking at what he was talking about with flow, that's very easy for me, and that's where all my deals have come from so far. And it just makes a lot of sense intuitively. So I think if I can start to apply that more systematically, that I could benefit from it a lot. So.
Yeah, just I love it. This is Dom, Dominique, whatever you want to call him. But he's going to be a superstar, and he's really good on the people skills end. And I think the thing that's interesting is Dom said it comes naturally for him, and it does for some people and not so much for others. But when we start really listening with curiosity, it takes all the selling pressure off of us. We don't, if we just are listening and caring, we don't have to be selling. And then the step in that video that I think really would make you turn the corner, Dom, and probably a lot of us, is we're not the tendency is, okay, I'm going to create some rapport. I'm going to ask these forward questions. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be a good friend. And then at some point, I'm going to turn on my sales and see if there are anything to sell here, any appointments, any referrals, you know. But shifting from that mindset to, yes, I'm going to listen. I'm going to be an awesome human. I'm going to validate their feelings. And in the process, I'm going to pay attention to see if there are any major changes going on in their life that they talk about. And if there are, then I know that there's an opportunity here, and to delve deeper into that opportunity. So, man.
No, I'm listening to a ninja tape. It's no big deal.
Okay, so I want to update you on Brittany.
Anybody else?
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so remember I talked to you.
Anyone? Don't make me hang up this meeting right now.
No. So one of the things that I thought about was when he said you should stop selling and start solving. You know, nobody really wants to be a salesperson, you know, but we all like to help other people and solve their problems.
Yeah.
If we're listening, we can find those problems that need to be solved and can go diligently serve them with that. So I like that. I'm reading another book, Doubters, Disruptors, and Discounters, or something like that. And they're talking about the same thing, is that we're not really salespeople, because salespeople are selling a product. Like this Yeti cup, I love it. It's wonderful. I want you to come buy this Yeti cup. So we're not doing that. Are solving their problems and getting them into a home, or getting them out of a home, or helping them right size, whatever it is. Because otherwise we would have a product that we were out peddling to people.
Yeah, we're not peddling a house or only Northeastern Group listings. You know, it's not like a car dealer. You go to Rorman Subaru, right. They can only sell you what's on that lot or what's on the other Subaru lots. They can't sell you a Buick. So we don't have that disadvantage. What we're selling is trusting me to help you solve your problem, you know, which could be with any product that's available in the entire city. Listed in the MLS, not listed in the MLS, for sale by owner, with a builder. I can help with any of those things. So all I'm selling is that I'm a good guy to help you do that, who's going to make you feel comfortable and give you good advice and clarity during the process. Yeah, I'm not selling this particular house. I always tell sellers, my job is to put this, to give you a maximum exposure to the marketplace. There's nothing I can do to sell this house, you know. People either love it or they don't. If you go on a showing and say, I'm not trying to sell you this house. I don't care if you buy this house or any other house, you know. I want to find you the right house that you jump up and down and say, I got to get this house. That's my job. And then help you get it. Once we found that house together, my job is to help you get that house, but not to push one on you. So yeah, the stop selling and stop chasing. I mean, what a relief to know you don't have to chase business. I hate that. I hate chasing in all areas of life. I don't want to chase, you know, I want to attract. I want stuff to come to me, and then I decide whether I want to go with it or not. That's what this system, I think, you know, I'm brand new here, but I think this system will do it. My gut, my intuition tells me this is it. This is where it's at. What else did you hear? Lori Stinson, Heidi, some of you, Tamara, you old pros, not old, experienced.
Oh, ouch.
I like the ritual versus the routine.
The what now?
The ritual versus the routine, what the difference is there. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, the ritual, you know, not every day, but when it's showtime, what do we do?
And I think too, not to interrupt, but when we go back to solving versus selling, that's why it's a little harder for newer people in the business to do that, because they don't feel like they have that skill yet, that they don't they're not comfortable solving all those problems where, you know, you've been in business for a while, you've already dealt with a map amendment and to get a survey. And if you're Scott, you've learned about driveways and easements and all that other kind of stuff. And in the beginning, you haven't really learned that. That's why I think for new people to get out there and do it, even if you're doing it for free or following somebody else, so that you feel like you can solve those problems for people, I think is important.
Yeah, for sure. The good news is those weird things are not every transaction. I mean, 9 transactions out of 10, it's just, you know, pretty straightforward. Maybe 8 out of 10. Maybe now it's 2 out of 10 that it got some weird twist to them. But yeah, this is where, you know, this is in the book. This is the seller process. Oh, pre-listing interview. So this is something like, you know, Dave was talking about earlier. But even if you're brand new, you don't have to guess anymore. You go down the list here. And then if you've gone down the list, the solution becomes quite obvious. You know, what has to happen becomes real clear. And when it has to happen by becomes real clear. And how long it's probably going to take becomes real clear. So you can have a high level of confidence. Whereas if you don't have a process and it's just these people come and they want to sell their house, that's you know, I haven't narrowed it down at all. It's really intimidating. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Heidi, was there something in the ritual? Do you have a ritual, pre-listing or pre-buyer ritual that you go through?
Oh, you know, I don't have any rituals.
Oh.
I don't. I'm just always myself at all of my appointments. And my biggest thing is get the trust, because that's what's important.
Yeah. Why do you think people trust you so much? Because I know all of them do.
I think it's just because they're all referral based. And so they already have a trust because their friend already trusted me and sent them my way. So I think there's a element of trust that comes when it's referral versus a cold call or off the sign.
Yeah.
And that's how I prefer to work. You know that. Yeah,
you try to give Heidi a sign call, she won't even take it.
It's true.
Me neither. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't know. Forget it. Lori, you got anything to add?
Well, I was just thinking about the trust thing. It's interesting when you talk to a sign call, you can hear the non-trust in their voice, you know, so it's really, that's challenging to work through if you do get a sign call. I thought the Ford analogy, the acronym was really good, just to kind of, again, put it in a framework. I mean, I think we all kind of go through those different questions in that, but it kind of, I don't know, one kind of leads to another as well, because we're talking to people. So I thought that was a good acronym to keep on the
Ford. Yeah. A lot of people have heard of Ford, but never really thought too much about it. Early in the book, it has Ford. So here's the Ford. So I highlighted this. Are these easy questions to ask? Do people enjoy answering them? They love to talk about their family, their career, what they're doing for fun, and their goals. One thing he didn't bring up in the interview is they talk a lot in the book about time of possession, which I'm breaking every rule in the book here during this little training. But when we're having us interview with a seller or a buyer, we want them to have time of possession. You know, in a sports game, whoever has time of possession usually wins, and they usually like the game a lot more, you know. So if I'm the one doing all the talking in a listing appointment and I'm presenting, you know, old school selling, I got my presentation, I'm just going through. Buyers and sellers tune out after like 2 minutes. They shut us off. They're doing other stuff in their head after 2 minutes. So what these questions do and what those interview questions do is give them time of possession. It keeps them talking about themselves, which people love to do. Anybody notice that? People love to talk about themselves. Me included. So yeah, family, friends. Where are you from? How's the family? How's your son doing? When does your daughter graduate? Oh, you went skiing with the Carrolls? How are they doing? You know, that's simple stuff. Occupation, what do you do during the day? How's business? What business are you in? How's everything at work? Recreation, what are you doing for fun? Did you go to the game last weekend? What trips do you have planned? Are you spending much time at your second home? How's your golf game? This is, and then dreams, people, he made it clear that dreams are not, you don't ask, what dreams do you have for the future? What's your income goal for 2021? We can't ask that stuff in normal conversation. So dreams are just anything that's going to happen in the future. It's anything that, what do? You guys got any plans for Christmas, Treva? That's a dreams question, Got any big vacations planned in 2021, How soon do you plan on retiring? Are you, hoping to retire early? This is stuff that just happens in the future. So any of those are dreams. Your daughter is graduating in the spring. What are her plans? Stuff like that. So that's the forward. And again, if any of that stuff, if any major changes, divorce, new job, kids, grandkids, kids left for school, any kind of major change like that increases their probability of moving by like 75%. So that warm list, it should be about 20% of your database. So if you have 200 people in your database, families, households, whatever, 40 of them should be on your warm list because you've heard or seen something. Facebook is awesome for this. You've heard or seen something that tells you something major is changing in their world here. What else did you
what
do?
I thought was so important to repeat that you said, Chris, maybe everybody else got it, but to me it was like a light bulb going off, is you're not talking about doing these questions on the listing appointment or on the appointment. You're just, as we go, as we're interacting with people. Life.
I bought a sofa the other day. I started asking the lady at the cash register these questions, and we had a real nice conversation. And I thought, this is not as hard as I make it out to be. And I'm super introverted, so it seemed kind of intrusive to me always. But now that I'm doing that a little bit more, I find, people love that. It puts them at ease instead of making them uncomfortable like I thought maybe it would. It doesn't. It puts them at ease very quickly. So, all right. So the book, you guys, that's probably the place to begin. If you say, man, this does sound pretty good. Let me share my screen again. How do I screen share? Show you a few things here. So here's the book. They don't have it at the library, sadly. You have to actually buy it. $25 will get it to your doorstep in a couple of days. I know Matt bought one and had it delivered. Like I said in the video, I'm ready to throw. I got 100 books, all about selling and real estate. I'm ready to throw all those out. Like, this is the book. If you had this book and you study this book, you're good to go. You know everything that you need to know about real estate, from the mindset, the habits, the daily routine. We're going to play, if we got time. What time is it? 11:09. Yeah, we got time. At the end of this, we're going to play the Ninja 9. That's their name for the 9 weekly activities. There are 5 daily activities that you do every day. It takes like 15 to 30 minutes. And then there are 4 activities that take another probably 2 hours. It might be as much as 4 hours to grow your business. There are 4 more during the week. So 5 daily and 4 weekly that you do. And that's the Ninja 9. So those are, if you just had those, my gosh, it'd be dangerous. It'd be dangerous. There is a Ninja planner and stuff that'll keep you on track. It's a paper planner. You guys know I'm the techiest dude in the world. I can't stand anything that's not in the computer, but I'm buying the paper planner. It's sold out right now. Heidi's excited. I always tease her about it. Having a paper calendar. I'm not going to the paper calendar. I can't go that far, Heidi, but I will get the paper planner to keep me on track. At least up until 11 o'clock every day, I'll use the paper. Because the morning should be when we work on our business, before all the interruptions and the reactionary stuff starts, before we turn on the email and the Facebook. If we could work just until 10 a.m., from 8 to 10 a.m. every day on our business, life would change dramatically. Just that one thing alone would revolutionized most of our business. So we're going to look at that. So this is the book, Ninja Selling. Can't recommend it strongly enough. I get nothing if you get it or you don't get it. Ninjaselling.com. I want to show you, this is the website. You have free ninja lessons here. So if you don't want to pay for anything and you still want to learn a little more, you got free ninja lessons. But then once you are, if you sign up for Ninja U, get my little participant window out of the way. Oh, I guess I am on, I'm sorry, I am on Ninja U. Let me go backwards. All right, so this is ninjaselling.com. So there's some online learning, webinars, but this is what I wanted to show you. First, one thing. This about us. You might want to, if you're the kind of person that needs convinced about why, you know, we should believe these people, this is the video to watch. It's a background on the whole, how this came about. I mean, this is 40 years in the making. It's just been really popular for about a couple years now, but it's been going on forever. What was I looking at? Oh, Ninja U, yeah. So the Ninja U looks like this. You can see here, this is 20 bucks a month or 200 for the year. If you pay the 200 for the year, then you get the business planning course, which is this course right here. 3 videos. It's about 4.5 hours of videos and a downloadable manual, which is like 50 pages, and it's amazing to help you build your business plan for 2021. But you can see here, this is the stuff that I say is missing from Tom Ferry, Buffini, Mike Ferry. So working with sellers, working with buyers. Here's the Ninja Buyer Process Demonstration, 22 minutes. The evolution of the buyer process, working with buyers in a seller's market. You know, all this stuff that we need to know, all the videos are here. There aren't hundreds of them, so you don't get overwhelmed, like what should I watch? But the stuff that's here, it's fire, let me tell you. So that's that, again, 200 bucks for the year with the planning session. What else I want to show you? We know that the live training is called the installation. There is an app, which is basically everything you see here, just in an app if you want to use it from your phone. There is a podcast. The podcast is good. It's not as good as what we've seen here, but it's good. It comes out twice a week. Ninja Selling Podcast. And then I want to show you, I think that's all I wanted to show you on that. Do you have any questions on that stuff, you guys?
Where'd you find the planner? I didn't see it on Amazon.
It's not on Amazon. Let's see here. Catalog. Might be under products at Ninja Selling. It's sold out right now. You can't even get it. So
right, but once it gets back into.
Yeah, I signed up to get notified when they had it back in stock, and I think it was. I think if you go to Ninja Selling and then products, maybe. Let's see. It's a pretty cool. Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
Ninja Planner. Get you a t-shirt, a hat, whatever. All right, let me show you the 5 points of value, because this is our elevator speech, or when somebody asks, what do? You know, we all suffer a little bit, struggle. We're afraid to just come out and say, well, I'm a realtor, because a lot of times that people are like, you know, they've talked to our competitors, and a lot of times that means, you know, somebody comes out with the claws and tries to hook them. That's what they sometimes hear when they hear that you're a realtor. So this is a way to talk about it the ninja style. It's 5 minutes, you guys. Think this would be worthwhile to see?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm not offended if anybody has to go. I want you to be here if you want to be here. So here, but I thought this one was pretty good. And then we'll look
Ladies and gentlemen in the Ninja Nation, thank you so much for joining us today for a Ninja U skill session. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through the 5 points of value. And if you recall where this comes up is at the end of day 1 and then...
Sorry. Can't help myself.
Change it fast.
Yeah, man. This is Peter Parneg, by the way. This is the guy I've been in touch with. He's the master trainer for them. And that's the guy that would do our installation if we ever can really pull it off to bring that to Fort Wayne. This would be the guy.
Installation, we're talking about how people make a decision over pricing and what they pay based on the intersection between pricing and value. And we talk about the idea that we have to be able to articulate concisely what we do, in this case, for a seller. And these are the 5 points of value. We've often heard this is called an elevator speech, a condensed version of what you do. And what's important here is you never know when you might be doing this. One instance might be when you're talking to a for sale by owner. A second instance might be when you're even at a party and you're just chatting and somebody's talking about real estate and says, we're thinking about selling our house. What do you do? And say, well, let me give you a kind of concise capsule of what we do. Number 3, it'll probably come up, and generally does come up, in a listing consultation. We have the expanded version there. And sometimes somebody just says, what do you do to get a house sold? In other words, this is your opportunity to have a rehearsed, well-planned explanation of what you do to accomplish the goals of a seller. And it starts with this idea of having a quick synopsis. The side benefit is that it proves you have a plan and it proves you have a process. Because remember, one of the things we've talked about is that when people refer you, often we think they're referring our sterling personality. But what they're really referring is the experience we've given them. And when they can see that it is a process, they're much more comfortable referring that, because then they have the dependability that the person they're referring to will get the same experience they did. And finally, it proves that you are focusing on accomplishing their goals. And it's repeatable, which, to repeat what I just said, it helps you get referrals. So you might recall that one of the things we talk about is a clarification question. In other words, you have to set the stage for the explanation of this by asking people to get clear on what's important to them. And the clarification question, if you recall, is the simple one where we ask a seller, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that your home will sell for a fixed price, or do you believe there's a range of value based on the marketing and negotiating skills of your realtor?
Ooh, people, did you get that? Let me just tell you that question right there was worth the price of admission today. That was worth your hour and a half so far, or whatever we've been on here. Do you believe it'll sell for a fixed price, or do you think the sales price would be dependent on how good your realtor is? That's the question we got to ask, because otherwise we're just a commodity. The house, they just think, well, the house is going to sell for $300. So why would I get a realtor that charges 7% when I can get one that charges 5%? Well, that's good.
Now, most people have never even contemplated this. When you're talking to a seller, generally they're like, gosh, I never even thought about that. I suppose there's a range. Now, if they say, well, it's going to sell for a fixed price, they're not quite clear on what you're asking. And the clarification question to that is, well, let me give you an example, Mr. Seller. Do you think that your house will sell for $327,500 no matter what? And then at that point they go, no, it'll probably sell for a range. Now you are teed up to present the 5 points of value that will allow you to influence getting their price at the top of the range. The 5 points are, and I'm going to go through them and then I'm going to show you what it sounds like. The 5 points are staging. We're going to get your house ready to present it in its best format. Pricing strategy, and we're going to talk, we don't talk a CMA, but we talk about a strategy. Third, we use the term maximum exposure, which is our format of marketing. Number 4, we want to talk about negotiation. And then we want to, 5, talk about transaction management. So here's what it might sound like if you were sitting with a seller. And you've just asked them the question, do you believe it will sell for a fixed price or a range of value based on the negotiating marketing skills of your realtor? They've gone, I never thought about that. Then you're going to transition into it by saying, let me tell you the 5 things that I'm going to do to get you at the top of the range of the pricing. The first is, we're going to walk through your house together, and I'm going to show you ways how to put yourself in put your property in the best presentation mode so that people will fall in love with it and they're willing to pay at the top of the range. In other words, staging. Second, together we're going to develop a pricing strategy. Here's what's important. We want to price it high enough so that you haven't left money on the table, but we don't want to price it too high to scare buyers away. And if we can find that sweet spot, we're going to get more people through the house. If we can get more people through the house, hopefully we'll get more excitement, we can get more offers, and the more offers we get will get you to the highest part of the range. The third thing is what we call maximum exposure. Our goal is to make sure that no buyer who could see your house misses it. Because one more time, if we can get more buyers into the house and they can see it, then we hopefully will create a competition for the purchasing of it. And so our strategy is called maximum exposure. Number 4, we believe that negotiation is a critical skill in any market. And one of the things I suspect is you want help in negotiation, and I'm going to do that for you to see if we can make sure you negotiate the best offer possible. And number 5, you know what? There are a lot of moving parts in a transaction, from having the offer, through the inspections, through the appraisal, through the loan process. Our goal is to get this to closing on time so that you can move to where you want to on the time frame that you select. Now, my value to deliver this, my fee to deliver this level of value is blank. And you'll notice there we don't say service, we say value. Sometimes people don't quite get it, and we love this final sentence. You know, Mr. Seller, one of the most important things is the greatest expense that you can have in a transaction is often the money you don't make. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Seller? I hope this is valuable to you. You can practice it, listen to it over and over, so that you can deliver this at any time without having to think through it, because the importance and the value is the clarity that you're able to present during the presentation. Thank you very much.
Pretty dynamite.
Ladies and gentlemen in the Ninja Nation, thank you so much for joining us today for a Ninja U skill session.
Oh my. Okay. I think we're good there, you guys. Is that good? Like, how have I been around this for 30 years and I didn't have that little dialogue? 2 minutes. The 5 things that I do that make me worth this fee. I'll give you a bonus tip. This isn't from Ninja, but I forget who I learned it from. But when you talk about your commission brings up it's negotiable. You know, that starts people negotiating. So we want to talk about our compensation. Not only that, you want to talk about the compensation. You don't want to say, well, I'm just going to use my number. As you know, you can charge whatever you want. My number's 6%. I don't say my compensation 6%. I say the buyer who's going to bring, who's going to find the buyer for your house, the agent who's going to find the buyer is going to get compensated 3%. My company, for the marketing and all these 5 things we just talked about, our compensation is going to be 3%. And then out of my company's 3%, I'm going to get my portion. Otherwise, they think you getting 6%. Man, Greg is getting rich off of me. No wonder he's driving that big 7 Series Mercedes or Benz or whatever, BMW. That's how they think. They hear 6%. Oh my God, Chris is getting filthy rich. That's ridiculous. So the other words you can use is that you work on a contingent basis. So I pay for the stager. I pay for the pre-listing inspection. I pay for the professional photography. I pay for the Facebook ads. And the only way I get paid is if you're successful in selling the house. So I work on a contingent basis. I don't ask for any of that money up front. I'm investing because I think we can succeed at this together. So that's working on a contingent basis. So that's good stuff too. Bonus nugget that has worked for me. What are your thoughts before we get on the Ninja 9 and get out of here? Anyone? Bueller?
The book.
Uh-huh.
I just ordered the book.
Man, she's on it. See, that's the thinker versus the doer. A lot of people think about. Some people just do. They're just like, I got a good idea, I'm going to run with it. That's what I was telling Kim, all this training that we do, all the training you need to do is say to some people, look, this book is awesome. This will get you a life and increase your dollars per hour. End of training. Thanks for coming. And some people like Lori would just go. They just grab it and run with it. Other people that want to come to trainings for 50 weeks on this before they decide to invest $20 and get a book. So take action. Winners take action. That's it, man. Winners take action. So Lori, no, I don't know how much you sold, but probably at least 10 million for the year. So this is why. You hear a good thing, you just go.
We should have a Ninja
Man, Ryan just got up to go. He's driving to the store, Barnes & Noble, right now to get the book. See that? What were you going to say? Who'd I interrupt?
I sent it to my wife off Amazon for my Christmas list. She thought I sent it by accident. I said, no, I want that book.
There you go. All right, I'm going to show you this Ninja 9. These are the daily and weekly habits, just to give you a feel for what we're talking about here. This is 30 minutes. I'm going to speed it up to 1.5, and so we'll be done in 20 minutes, which would be 11:50. So that's what's up, and then we'll see if anybody has any thoughts or questions, then we'll call it a day. So here's what I want you to do. While you're listening to these Ninja 9, just ask yourself each one, is this something that I could do? Is this easy to do or hard to do? You know, and which one would you have the most trouble with? Which one of these would you struggle with? Fair enough? Then I'm going to ask each of you at the end of this. So after 19 minutes, be sure to click off the meeting if you don't want to answer. All right? We'll see you.
Greetings, ninjas. My name is Don Tennyson. And as we start to re-enter into the marketplace and things are beginning to open up again, we think it's a good idea to review the daily habits that help us create leads and referrals. We call that the Ninja 9. Now, this Ninja 9, there are 5 daily activities, 4 weekly activities that make up the Ninja 9. The 5 daily activities known as the Ninja 5, and we're going to go through each one of those. And our suggestion is see if you can find 1 or 2 things that you can add to your routine that will help you stay in better touch with your database. In Ninja, the term flow simply means frequency of interaction, primarily with people who already know us, like us, and trust us. How much and how often should we be in touch with folks in order to create that scenario where they see us as the source of real estate information? We think the Ninja 9 is a trend bender. What we mean by that is that a trend bender is something that, say your business is going along fine, all of a sudden there's a dramatic increase in your activity. We have to ask the question, what happened right here when that trajectory changed? We think the Ninja 9 can be that in your real estate business. Our suggestion is let's focus on the activities that create production and let the production take care of itself. Nick Saban said it pretty well. Of course, Coach Saban, University of Alabama, he said stop actually thinking about winning and losing and instead focus on the daily activities that cause success. The daily activities that cause success in real estate, we think, are the Ninja 9. The winning and losing is the focus on the transactions. So how about this? Let's stop focusing on the transactions. Let's start focusing on the activities that will create the leads and referrals. This stuff really does work. Let's see if we can figure out some stuff to improve and move forward in our real estate business. All right, so let's start with habit number 1 is a focus on gratitude every day. Now, gratitude is one of those things that you might think it's just kind of automatic. We spend a lot of time talking about it in Ninja, but the thing to remember here is the science behind gratitude that really makes it powerful. Dr. Emmons from the University of California, Davis, has spent many, many years looking at the scientific benefits of gratitude. So let's take a look. So number 1, we have to understand that gratitude really is nothing more than just energy. And it's the energy we put out into the world. So here's the question. Do we have an energy that attracts people into our business, or is it an energy that pushes people away? We think gratitude is the right energy that will attract people into your business. Dr. Emmons in his research also indicates that people who have a mindset of gratitude exercise more regularly. They seem to make more progress on attaining important goals in their life. They're relatively higher levels of optimism for people who focus on gratitude, and they generally have better empathy skills. So, we think there's a lot of great scientific justification for a focus on gratitude. So habit number 2 is to show up. And really, in our world of real estate, amazingly, not everybody shows up for work. So we think one of the most important things is to show up, and let's make sure that we time block our schedule so we have a chance to get some things done. Particularly as it relates to the Ninja 9, the recommendation is time block your schedule for a couple of hours in the morning, first thing in the morning, to get all these things done that we're talking about here today. So time block that schedule, 8:30 to 10:30, 9 to 11, something like that. That's more than enough time to get these Ninja 9 activities done. And if we can time block the schedule, it'll really help us get focused. We'll make sure we get those flow activities taken care of, and then we're able to go on with the rest of our day. So a couple of takeaways, an action tip here related to Ninja 9 number 2. Let's make sure that we actually write it down in your calendar that from 9 to 11, you're going to focus on your Ninja 9 activities. Focus on flow. That's the most important thing. That really is how we generate leads and referrals. That's where the transactions come from. And the benefit of that time blocking, of course, is it allows us to minimize distractions as we go throughout the day. One suggestion kind of related to focus is to avoid opening that email first thing in the morning. And of course, we know that email is a giant distraction and it has the potential to take us to places that we don't really want to go. So how about this? How about practicing an hour of productive work before we jump into our email?
The other thing that we'd suggest for focus purposes, see if it might work to eliminate some of the social media notifications off of your phone. Every time we get a text message or something on our social feed or something like that, it has the potential to take us down the wrong path. Now, the picture on the screen here, I just wanted to show you how simple distraction can be. That's a picture on my computer. When I go to the internet, here's what opens up, and there's all kinds of distraction. That screenshot there goes down several pages, and all the news and gossip and all kinds of things going on there. I found myself even going to email, which is a distraction in itself, that the screen before the email can be distracting. So here's what I did. I went from this screen right here to this one right here where it's totally blank. All right? Now, don't email me and ask me how I did this because I can't tell you. Somehow magic happened, and now we got a blank screen, so we don't have to be distracted when we go to our email. All right, habit number 3, write 2 personal notes every day. This one's kind of an automatic. It's a big deal in Ninja. The power of personal notes, I think we've got that pretty well handled. You know, in some cases with personal notes, it really is a just do it kind of thing. Our suggestion right now is double down on the notes because we still have some limitations on face-to-face depending on where you're at. The personal notes can really help to make up for our lack of face-to-face contact with people. They really are powerful. And how about this for right now? How about including a $5 gift card to coffee or something like that with your personal notes? It's fun. It gets people's attention. It shows gratitude for the relationship. Give that a shot. I think you'll find that people will react positively to that, and they'll call you. They'll thank you. They'll want to talk to you. All right, so let's just do it. So quick recap on the first 3. Let's make sure we're focused on gratitude. Let's time block our schedule and write 2 personal notes. All right, let's move on. Habit number 4, focus on your hot list every day. Well, here's the simple version of a hot list. These are people who are going to be doing business with you in the next 90 days. All right, simple concept, write them down on a piece of paper, have that piece of paper with you, look at it a couple of times a day, and it reminds you of the people who have the best possibility of doing business with you in the next 90 days. And of course, we ought to be asking ourselves a couple of questions related to the hot list. Question number 1 is there anybody on this list that's ready to either write a contract on a house they want to buy, or are they ready to list their own home? Secondary question is, if nobody's quite ready, what do I have to do to help someone on that hot list get to the next step? And I got to tell you, folks, this hot list, it seems so simple and so straightforward, but it really is a fantastic tool to keep us focused on the people who have the best possibility of doing business with us in the next 90 days. All right? So here we are on a couple of action tips related to the hot list. Number 1, let's remember there's pent-up demand in the marketplace. There's the potential for overwhelm. I know in our own real estate business, our son Michael is working with us in our own real estate business, and he came over last night. He just mentioned, oh my gosh, I've got 6 under contract. I've got 6 buyers. I've got 5 or 6 listings. I can't keep it all straight. Hey, guess what? We had a little hot list conversation last night at our house. All right. So it'll help you with overwhelm. The other thing is a hard copy to carry with you is always a great idea. If that hot list lives on your computer, you won't look at it often enough. Just make sure you have one that you can carry around, and let's review it every day. You know, another thing to keep in mind as we re-enter here and things can get busy, overwhelm can take in, let's make sure that we have gratitude for a long hot list and that we don't accidentally get into a mindset that says, I'm burdened, I'm overwhelmed, what am I going to do? We don't want to send that message to the universe that you don't want to be busy. All right, habit number 5 is to focus on your warm list every day. Simple definition of a warm list is this. These are the people who have change going on in their lives, and these changes in their lives could be significant enough that it could require a change in their real estate. What if we could do this? What if there was a way to predict the 20% of the people in your database, in your sphere of influence, who have the greatest potential to move in the next 12 months? If we could identify those people, do you think it would be advantageous to know who they are? Well, we have a simple way to do that, and that's simply to focus on change. Because as we know, change in people's lives is what drives most real estate transactions. So this warm list is nothing more than a list of people who have change going on. Maybe it's a job change, maybe kids going off to college, people getting married, people getting divorced, family members who have passed away, all examples of change. I don't know if there's been a time in recent history when there has been so much change going on in people's lives. This is really the great time to put that warm list together. So here's the takeaway. Check out your people on social media. This is the place where change can be identified. Go on all the social media sites, identify if people have some change going on, write their names down on the warm list, just stay in touch with them. And maybe kind of review with your database just the last 90 days of what's going on in people's lives. Things have been turned upside down and a lot of change going on. You know, one of the things, too, we need to remember about with a warm list is these stay-at-home orders we've been involved with since the middle of March or so. A lot of people have stayed at home. A lot of people have had more time at home than ever before. People are making considerations about the future related to their home. They might want to stay there. They might want to remodel. They might want to move. There's also the possibility that some folks just don't like their house anymore after the last 90 days. You want to make sure you know about that. You know, the one thing to keep in mind is this 80-20 rule is in effect with the warm list. Generally speaking, 20% of a database will have enough change going on that they ought to be on your warm list. All right, let's take a look at the 4 weekly activities on the Ninja 9. Habit number 6, focus on your client calls or your customer service calls on a weekly basis. This is all the stuff that we're going to include in our time blocking for 2 hours every morning. So the benefits of your customer service calls, some things that if we just stay in touch with people, these are current buyers and sellers, under contract buyers and sellers, recently closed folks, people who have birthdays or wedding anniversaries and so forth. A couple of the obvious benefits of making these kinds of calls is that it really is a way to provide fabled service. Because believe it or not, most realtors don't do a great job of staying in touch with their people, and your people will really appreciate it when you do. Second thing is that if you make these customer service calls and you time block your schedule, you'll have fewer interruptions and you'll be able to get those calls done. And there's always the possibility for additional leads and referrals when we check in with people. So the referral mindset of Ninja is that my next transaction is embedded in the current transaction. And so here's the thought. Every time we have a new seller, a new buyer comes into our life, the first thing that ought to come into our mind is, what do I have to do? What kind of an impact do I have to have on this family in order for them to be so impressed that they'll want to provide me with a lead or referral before the end of the current transaction? That's really the right mindset to take. All right? And we also know from the research that every household in the United States and Canada, they know at least 4 people who are going to move in the next 12 months. So if we stay in touch with people with our customer service calls, we have an opportunity to access leads and referrals from those 4 people on average that those folks know who are going to move sometime this year. The referral mindset with Ninja is a little bit unique, and we have to make sure we keep things in the right order. So referrals in real estate come, we believe, based on the quality of our relationships. And relationships get built based on our ability to engage in flow activities. So when we make these customer service calls, 5-step calling process, it's the way to go. Make sure that we ask permission to talk. If they answer the phone, do you have time for a quick conversation? Second step is not the purpose of the call. We're going to make sure that we ask a forward question for common ground. Forward questions, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. The reason we ask those questions is we want to focus on them, not on ourselves. But the other thing is the answers to the questions can sometimes identify change, and that'll help us know if somebody might need our help. Then, of course, the purpose of the call, go back to one more forward question, and then finally keep these calls short. They only need to be 2 or 3 minutes. These customer service calls, we think, are many times the calls that most realtors forget about. So let's have a plan. Let's make sure we get those done. All right, a couple of takeaways from Ninja 9 number 6. How about this? If you have been in real estate for a while, why don't you just make yourself a goal that you're going to call every buyer and seller that you've had for the last 12 months. That'll be a great way to get started on these customer service calls. If you're relatively new to real estate, how about this? Why don't you just make a call to your 25 best relationships? Find out how they're doing, find out how their reentry is going and what's going on with their work, and are they going to take a vacation, and those kinds of things would be a great way to touch base with your best relationships, right? Also, maybe some questions that you could ask on these customer service calls that are pertinent for the time. Maybe a question is, over the last 3 months, what have you learned about your home? Things you like and things you don't like. What would you change? If you could change anything based on being at home for a while, what would that be? And how about this one? We really like this dreams-oriented question, and that is, if you could live anywhere, where would that be? All of those will generate great conversation, and it's a focus on your friends and clients, not a focus on ourselves. All right? Let's make sure we listen for change. That's the key to understanding whether or not people might need our help down the road with a real estate transaction. All right, habit number 7 on the Ninja 9, schedule 2 real estate reviews every week. You know, these real estate reviews have amazing results associated with them. We're going to encourage you to put some extra emphasis on these real estate reviews over the next few months. Here's what it is, a quick definition. A real estate review is simply an opportunity to get together with a homeowner, someone who knows you, and your job is to provide some background about what's happened in the real estate market over the last few months in their neighborhood and help them maybe come to some conclusions about the current value of their home. So what we're talking about here is not an exhaustive market analysis, something that can be put together in less than 10 minutes. The idea is face-to-face if we possibly can. Now, there's some limitations right now still with that. The backup plan would be to send through the mail, or some type of a Zoom call or a FaceTime call would also work out great. Make sure we focus on the person, not the data. So we're going to ask lots of forward questions and get caught up and have an enjoyable conversation, and meet in a place that makes sense for them and is appropriate for the current situation, but have some fun along the way. So if you think about it, this idea of a real estate review is very much in line with being a trusted advisor. Whether you have an insurance person or you're people in the medical profession or an accountant or an attorney that you work with, all of these folks generally want to meet with their people on an annual basis to keep them up to date. And the question is, what about real estate? Does anybody have a real estate trusted advisor? And we know from the statistics that a high percentage of realtors don't follow up with people after they do a transaction with them. So in many cases, people don't have a trusted advisor for real estate, and you can be the one. We think this real estate review is a classic example of being a trusted advisor. You don't have anything to sell. You're simply providing great information about the current value of their home. The other thing is, with all of the stuff going on with the stay-at-home orders and that sort of thing, many people have come to a conclusion that real estate's come to a standstill, and of course we know that's not the case. So a real estate review will help people know that there's been multiple real estate transactions and activities in their neighborhood, most likely even over the last 3 or 4 months. All right, so here's a couple of...
Got a question for you.
when they, throughout the Ninja system, the people that do these live real estate reviews, you're not selling anything, right? You're just giving information. Here's what's happening in Fort Wayne. Here's what's happening in Pine Valley. You know, this is the range we think, you know, your value is probably at now. Here's what Zillow thinks. Here's what, you know, HomeSnap thinks. Here's what the assessor thinks. How many times, what percentage of the time do you think they end up with a referral?
70%.
What time?
70.
70. Woohoo, I wish. Not that high. Looks like you're all seated.
40%.
Almost 40. 30, a third of the time, 33% of the time, they get a referral. So you do 3 of these over a coffee, and you're going to probably end up with 1 referral. I mean, I've been looking for ways to get business a long time. There is nothing that I know of that will get you a referral a third of the time, that you can do almost for nothing. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we can do it via Zoom now.
So he's saying for a past client doing these annual reviews, and you get a referral 1 out of 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to, they might not sell themselves, but they may introduce you to somebody.
Right.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be a past client. It can just be, you know, Bill, who I know from my tennis league, you know, Bill, you know, I put together a little information, you know, I'd love to show it to you about what's happening in real estate in Eagle Creek. If he lives in Eagle Creek, you can say, okay, yeah, let's check it out. All right. You know, when are you available for a cup of coffee or what, you know, whatever you're comfortable with. Zoom, cup of coffee, Black Canyon, little Oriental. What are those? Oh man, made myself hungry. I forget what it's called. But yeah, that 33% of the time, you guys.
Examples of things that could be included in a typical real estate review. So if the tax records are part of public information in your area, we like to include the tax records. We like to include the sold page from when that particular homeowner bought that property. We like to include kind of a review of all the real estate activity that's gone on in that neighborhood. And right now, let's put emphasis on the real estate activity that's occurred since the middle of March. Also, we want to print out any sold properties or under contract properties, one page per property, so that we have both actives and under contracts and sold that the homeowner can take a look at. And RPR is also a good option. If you have RPR that's accessible to you, that's a nice format to put together the real estate review. And we'd make one other suggestion of what you'd include in the real estate review. And here it is. Let's include the Zestimate as well. Hey, those homeowners, they're going to go there anyway. Zillow's the #1 real estate website in the world. We might as well control the information, provide this estimate, and set the two side by side. And we have some good information about the relative effectiveness and accuracy of Zestimates, and we can have that conversation. And it really does set you up as the source of real estate information. So here's an example of some of the results from real estate reviews. Jim Murray is a great ninja out in Colorado. Reported the other day that in 1 month's time he got really focused on the real estate reviews. He did 15 of them. They were all face-to-face. 5 transactions came about as a result of that. And we asked Jim the question, well, what motivates you? Jim's a real veteran, 30 plus years in the business. What motivates you to do that? We love that answer. He says, you know what? I owe it to my people to give them quality information about what's going on with their home. In Jim's case, it's really the heart of a servant, which is really part of the ninja mindset. Okay, so a couple of takeaways on the real estate reviews. Let's do it the way Pam Cass does it. Pam is a ninja also in Colorado. Pam says, start with your best 50, all right? Your last 50 transactions, your 50 best clients. If you're newer to real estate, it might be your 50 best friends, your best relationships. Start with those. And Pam says, you know, in most cases, since they're your best relationships, these are people that will almost always say yes and will gain some momentum and get you started. Use that 5-step calling process when you make the call, and meet where it's convenient for them if it's possible and you're safe to get face-to-face. If not, a Zoom call or a FaceTime call will also work. It's a good idea to provide a small gift. It's just good etiquette to do that. It makes it easier for them. They'll almost always say yes. And if we can go to their home, if that's possible, people like to show off their home and they like to give us a tour, and that generally works fairly well. And who knows, you might even have someone, if those folks end up deciding to list their home, you might even have a match for that particular property. But keep in mind, the real emphasis on the real estate review is not to try to talk them into listing their house. It's simply to provide great information. All right, a couple more. Habit number 8. Schedule 50 live interviews a week, face-to-face on the phone. We certainly understand the limitations currently about face-to-face, but we don't want to forget about it. As we re-enter, there's going to be opportunities to be face-to-face, and let's make sure that we take advantage of those opportunities. So a guy by the name of Tony Hsieh wrote a book called Delivering Happiness, and Tony Hsieh, the ladies especially will remember that Tony Hsieh founded an organization called Zappos. Zappos was later purchased by Amazon for $1.2 billion or something like that. Tony Hsieh has made millions, if not billions, on the internet, and he's a young guy. But by the same token, what he says is this. He says he thinks the telephone is the most amazing and productive electronic device ever invented. So let's not be hesitant. We sometimes get feedback from ninjas who say, well, nobody wants to answer their phone anymore, and people don't like to talk on the phone. And I think over the last 3 months, we've figured out that people actually do like to talk on the phone. So let's make sure that we use that device to its full capacity. Compared to email, compared to some other forms of communication, the phone is faster. You can actually hear somebody's voice there. You can pick up on empathy and that sort of thing. And really, it does create a little bit more focus compared to sending them something that is written. In fact, Tony Hsieh had a comment. He said one time, if the telephone would have been invented after email, we'd have been talking about the most fantastic discovery on the face of the planet, but it didn't actually happen that way. Our suggestion is less email, more face-to-face and on the phone. So here's a few takeaways for 50 live contacts a week. Let your calendar drive those calls. So birthdays, wedding anniversaries when people have purchased their home, those kinds of things ought to be in our database, and we can be working on that on an ongoing basis. We can use real estate reviews for an opportunity to make calls. That'll help us get to that 50 live contacts.
I just want to, when I heard 50 interviews, that scared the crap out of me, because Buffini's always talking about calls, notes, and pop by. And Buffini, though, regardless of your level of activity, you still got to make your calls. In Ninja, they recognize that if you're doing a weekly seller update call or a weekly buyer update call, or you're on an inspection and you talk to the buyer and you ask some questions and you develop a little relationship further, those all count. So when I was buying the sofa and I talked to the lady at the checkout, that counts. So if you got 10 customers that you're talking to, that's 10 of your weekly calls, as long as you are asking the forward questions and deepening the relationship. So you could easily have 25 just in the normal course of your doing business, and then you have to find 25 more. And the beauty of it is, if you're swamped, and you got 50 customers and transactions going and you're talking about all kinds of stuff all the time, then you don't have to call anybody. You just have to take really good care of those people. But if you're brand new and you got nothing, then you got to hold an open house and talk to 5 people. And then you got to door knock and talk to 10 people. Then you got to go to a networking thing and talk to 5 people. You got to find 50 somewhere to have those, and they call them interviews because you're asking questions and listening. So I used to call them conversations, but I do like the thought of interviewing better because they're listening. So don't panic when you hear 50.
A week. So let's make sure that we don't forget about face-to-face and understand that asking forward questions and getting together with folks and having phone conversations, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, doesn't cost anything to make a phone call, and it's really the best way to identify change. All right, here's the last one. Ninja 9 habit number 9. Update your database and look for property matches for buyers. But the most important thing here is let's make sure our database is updated on a weekly basis. And we know from some of the research that's observational that every household in your database is worth at least $1,000 a year in gross commission income. And if that's true, would it be a good idea to stay in touch with those people? We sure think it is, all right? So the best way to do that is to have an organized electronic database where you can access name, address, phone number, email on some kind of a regular basis. And then, of course, we'll schedule our flow time. That 2 hours in the morning, 5 days a week is the best way to make sure that the Ninja 9 actually happens. All right, so here's a couple of final takeaways. When we say just one thing, all right, when we ask realtors all over, when we have conversations of the Ninja 9, what's the thing that has the biggest impact on your business? And in many cases, kind of really overwhelming number of times, people say the 50 live contacts a week is really the foundational part of my real estate business. And if there was a second thing 2, if you will, it's the real estate reviews. These real estate reviews are incredibly powerful, especially now. People have a little bit of uncertainty about the value of their home. This would be a great thing to focus on. And here's one more bonus or action tip, and it would be just one more thing, and if you like, call it thing 3. And that is, we think the morning routine is a great way to start the day. Focus on your gratitudes, read something motivational or inspirational, focus on your affirmations, review your life list, and write 2 personal notes. That's a great way to start your day. It only takes 35 or 40 minutes, and it really does help us get focused and get on track. Now, these 4 people were part of a Ninja call that was held a couple of weeks ago. These are 4 higher producing realtors from all over the United States and Canada. Larry Kendall, the author of Ninja Selling, had an opportunity to interview these 4 people on the call at one time. And he asked one question. It was unscripted. These folks didn't have an opportunity to collaborate. And he said, what's the one thing for you that has the biggest impact on your real estate business? And they said the one thing was that morning routine, getting into a pattern, making sure we make those 5 daily activities of the Ninja 9 happen on a daily basis. In fact, Sharon Anderson, one of the people on that call, this was her quote. We'll finish up with this. She says, when I start my day right, I have a great day. My great days turn into great weeks. My great weeks turn into great months, and great months make for the best year ever. Wow, that's pretty good. You know what, folks? This stuff works. As we reenter, let's put some extra emphasis on the Ninja 9. Let's develop those leads and referrals, and let's make sure that we can make 12 months of income here in the next 5 or 6 months. All the best on the Ninja Path. Y'all take care now.
Okay. Oh, somebody jumped off real fast, so they didn't have to answer. I see how you are. Kim, tell us one takeaway.
Am I supposed to sing it?
Oh, God dang it. Sorry about that. Yeah, Kim, we want to hear what did you, which?
Well, I tried to write down all the 9 things so that I have it. 2 things I would guess is that if I meet with someone, do a review, I can be guaranteed a referral a third of the time. So like you said, if I just schedule 3 reviews, I ought to be able to get 1 transaction.
Right.
The other thing I saw was every household in your database that you stay in contact with is worth $1,000 a year.
Yeah, that was an interesting metric I never heard before. Now, that doesn't just mean because we got them on our list. That means we're staying in flow with them. If we're in flow with them, which means we're the top of mind realtor for them, then they're worth $1,000. So if you're making 40 and you want to make 240, how many families you got to add to your database?
200.
There you go. I never heard a metric like that before. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, Kim, I love it. I'm glad somebody picked that out because that was like an eye-opener for me. Like, whoa, this is an easy way to judge how much money I'm going to make. And am I willing to stay in touch with X number of people? I want to make 300. Can I really stay in good flow with 300 families? Probably not. Me personally. Heidi could probably pull it off. So for people. Who else? I'm going to ask everybody. So Ryan, let's start with you.
Well, I just think I need to do a better job of practicing flow. I used to do a really good job with that, and then I just kind of got out of developing those good habits and routines. So that's something I'm really gonna try to make a change on.
Same for me, man. And I think we need to focus on what they call the auto flow, which is a monthly email and a monthly.
Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any suggestions for that, or any companies that?
What's it called? Postcard Mania is one.
Okay.
Sensations is another one.
One thing that I wanted to say is I worked with a designer to come up with some postcards that we're going to roll out for the beginning of the year that if you decide you want to partake in it, then we can just take the graphic that she's designed and then put the words on the back and send it out to your database, like through Express Copy or whoever Elena normally uses. But
Express Copy, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, most of these places like Express Copy, Sensation, they have a 12-month plan.
Really nice graphics.
Yeah, you just say, you pick one you like. What they would suggest is do one monthly market. They call it science and art. Buffini calls it caring and competency. One, it shows that you're a good person, and the other one shows you know what the heck you're doing. So you would do a market report and a recipe, a sports calendar and a average sale price, whatever, But what they really suggest is just pick it out this month or January, pay for the whole year, and have it on autopilot so you don't ever think about it again until this time next year. Because otherwise it ain't going to happen. We all know that. Heidi, what was your one thing?
I love the hot list for the people for the next 90 days. I'm kind of all over the board with clients, and I just look at my my monthly mailing list. And when I do something, I do it for them all. I'm just kind of throw it all in there at once. And it's nice to think that I need to really focus on those 90 days.
Yeah.
Of course, still do everything that I normally do, but really put a focus on those for my morning activity.
Yeah, it's so dangerous that, we get busy and we forget. We know somebody's thinking they got a move coming up, but then you just forget about it and somebody else slips in, they cross the moat and now they're in flow with them and you lose the deal. I know it doesn't happen to you very much, but it can easily happen. So that hot sheet, now that I've been looking at that hot sheet every day, it's so wild. I only got 2 people on my hot sheet. It's not like I'm going to forget those 2, but it is different to have a piece of paper that you actually look at and you think about what's going on in those 2 people's lives. It's pretty cool. Well, yeah, and the warm list as well, because those are the easy ones to forget. The hot list that they're going to buy, they know they're going to buy, it's on. You don't really forget those, but the warm list ones, a lot easier to forget. Good.
Mine's the same, the hot and the warm list. I've got a board with sticky notes of names on it, but this kind of takes it to another level.
Yeah. Theirs is, now I got to print this on 11 by 17 because my old man eyeballs won't see that, but you see, it's got warm list, hot list, pending, and closed. And then down here in the bottom, this is an Excel spreadsheet. It will not work on Google Sheets, by the way, only on Excel. But anyway, it actually figures your income, what your potential income is for all the hot list and warm list people, what percentage of your goal you've made for the year. It keeps it all there on just one little sheet. So I'm going to print this on 11 by 17 so I can fold it over to 8.5 by 11. And then that's your whole business right there. It's everything that's happened and is happening this year. Pretty cool. The hot sheet and warm list. Julie, school us. You're on mute though, by the way.
Hi.
Hi.
I think the big thing for me was like to start every day with the attitude of gratitude, and then just to get into that daily routine. Because I don't have a lot going on right now, but I think just no matter what happens in the day, to start with a good attitude, and just to get into that habit, and then the rest of it will happen.
Yeah, there's a book. He put it on that coaching video, the 5-minute journal. You might look on Amazon for that, the 5-minute journal. It's a gratitude thing. You look at it in the morning and the night, and it just has like 3 little questions, 3 things I'm grateful for, what was awesome today, and just 5 minutes in the beginning of the day, 5 minutes at the end. All, if you're the kind of person that wants it all organized in one place, that's a good one for it. But yeah, God, my attitude got such crap during COVID. I just went on a downward spiral, and it was from lacking that morning focus of a morning routine. I didn't have to go to the office, so I just sleep in a little bit. Every day started a little differently, and pretty soon, I'm watching the news and just thinking the whole world's coming to an end. So it's a lot harder to get off track like that if you have a morning routine, and the gratitude is a great way to start. I love it. That's what I'm focusing on, Julie, myself. I think that's the foundation. Treva, what you got? Oh, you're on mute. Still on mute. Let me unmute you. There, I think I got you on unmute now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, I took a lot of notes. I like to do that because something will pop back in my head and I want to look at it again. But I think this is definitely a time that reaching out to people is huge, because a lot of people are still staying home, and it's just not the same type of social interactions we've had before.
Right.
So showing that you care about them and that your time is worth something, that you don't mind spending it on them.
Yeah. Yeah, you got COVID and Christmas all in one nice package. People really are craving some kind of contact. So if
Kim, we got yours. Matt, tell us real quick. We're almost out of time, but I do want to ask everybody if you don't mind.
Yeah. Just kind of that structure in the morning, starting with kind of, gratitude, focusing, kind of getting set for the day. I think a lot of times, especially these last couple of years with small children, I sleep into the last moment and then boom, off to the races with, them. And then days that I'm in the office, it's just, and I can do it. I can get up before them. So it's just getting intentional. And I think I've done this in the past when I had the store in Indy. I'd get up and it's changes your day, Be productive before you even leave the door is huge, like just having a plan for the day, having kind of focus for the day helps this kind of, I don't know, I get way more done when it's weird how just having that focus helps you get us.
Leaving this thing alone for the first hour, what difference would that make? I still can't do it. I'm going to.
I stopped leaving my phone next to my bed. I found that helpful too.
Oh
just stop.
I got bed. Yeah. Allie, what you got? I'm unmuting you. Well, it says ask to unmute, so we'll come back to you. Angie, Jeremy, Kyle, somebody chime in here. Oh, she ran off.
My main things was just making sure, like, I don't really know if they specifically said it, but with the phone calls, being afraid of people answering the phone. Nobody wants to answer the phone, but when you actually call them, I think that's where I kind of, my uncomfort zone, I guess, is like when I have to call people. I'd rather text, I'd rather email. It's easier than being on the phone. But at the same time, when you're on the phone, you hear the tone, you hear the personality, and I think that's kind of important, especially if people are going to trust you.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, I was the same. I just keep going back to, well, the reason for my call is not to convince them to sell something. It's just to listen to them, ask some questions, let them know I'm thinking about them. Really, that's all I want. I mean, I just so badly did not want to be that guy who called because he needs some business that I just wouldn't call. I just hated it that much that I'm like, I'm not taking any chances that Kim thinks this when I call. So I'm just not going to call. And that's the wrong, I've just decided that's the wrong approach. I just got to say, I'm calling to care about them, and I'm going to do my best to make their day. So let's do it, Angie. Let's call some people. Kyle, what you got? Hello. Put down your golf club and talk.
Oh, man. I was just thinking about the informal talk, and make sure you listen when you do the informal thing, because I do that a lot. I talk a lot to people, and when you get a chance in real estate, just make sure you catch all the stuff when you're talking informally to them.
Mm-hmm. Give them some time of possession, right?
Yep.
Love it. All right, you guys, we ran over, but thanks so much for coming. I hope you found it valuable. And grab that book and let's go. Let's make 2021 the best year ever. All right. See you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris.
Thanks.